Hi, everybody. I'm Niran, CEO and co-founder of Kwant, and I have Jay here.
Hi everyone, this is Jayesh. I'm a product manager at Kwant.
Awesome. So today we're here to talk about what's going on in the AI world, especially primarily in construction, and discuss about all the new things that are happening. Some are related to Quant, but some are not. We also don't want to disclose all the cool things we're doing at Quant, just as a disclaimer, so that we want to keep it as a little bit more high level. But we are encountering AI in every day of our lives in everything we do. You know, um, AI to regulate the temperature of the houses, to AI to even drive the car, to reply to a text message. Everything has been backed by AI. So let's talk about how is it impacting our industry and the potential and the challenges for that. So Jay, let's start with the you know an open-ended questions about like AI. Is AI a buzzword that everybody's talking about AI right now, or have we realized some value out of it? And is there something that is concretely valuable here? Where do we stand on the AI buzzword versus it's going to change the world?
AI, like as an artificial intelligence, is about teaching machines how to mimic human intelligence. Like you learn from data, recognize patterns, and making decisions. Like as in whole, it might sound all of this like a buzzword, but it's more than that. It's about enhancing your ability to solve complex problems very easily. So for me, AI isn't just about technology, it's about amplifying the human potential, like what you can do, making decisions safer and faster. Specifically, if in terms of construction, where it's a high stake environment, a lot of things are changing dynamically, AI can contribute to a lot in helping solve those problems. So I think it's much more than a buzzword. We need to really understand what AI actually means and what we're trying to achieve with that intelligence.
Yeah, talking about problems, right? It looks like there are still some of the companies are still trying to find the problem they're trying to solve for. And even the meeting we had today and like yesterday, there are partners of ours who are as owners rep or general contractors, they're so fascinated with the word AI, and they want to bring it to the to their partners and customers. And the question was, we're still defining the problem at this point. Actually, this customer that we were talking to is a pretty massive general contractors slash owners rep that we're partnering with. So is this a solution looking for a problem, or a problem looking for a solution?
No, I think what they were saying makes sense. You're still trying to identify the problem before you jump into a solution. And that's true. Like a lot of times we see, even we have experienced that when we are building the product. We sometimes try to jump to the solution, like rather than identifying and creating that, identifying the problem. It basically means like how well you can articulate the question you are asking. There's a famous thing that every time you have a problem or if you're trying to identify a solution, ask the question why 5 times. If the fifth time you still have that same answer, then yeah, it's actually a solution you are looking for. So yeah, it's true that what they're doing is correct, and like it might slow down your process in certain sense, but it might give you a better result. Uh, the thing is also that we need to see that there is a lot of technological advancement that's happening, and that has happened at least in the last 2 years or 3 years, at least in the public domain that we can see. So for every company to keep up to that, adopt like now AI has become like a central strategy for all the companies to have it on the roadmap. Not just as a product and tech company for us, but even for construction companies, they have to start looking in how they can use AI to optimize their workflows, optimize things. So identifying that where the problem in that workflow is, which AI can help is the point they are trying to identify. And it's correct. Like that's how the approach should always be.
Yeah, I think we should talk about the advancement in the AI in the last 2 years, because I've seen it even within the last 2 months. Things have just drastically become or gradually become better in like different parts of the model. At this rate of change, we can only imagine how faster things can get in a few years, right? Like my son Atlas wakes up in the morning and wants to talk to Siri every day and ask how's the weather, or he wants to command like, I want to listen to this song on a Spotify, right? That has become a very interesting growth in the just use of general AI in everybody's life. But in many cases, yes. So how do you kind of go about finding the right problem that the customer wants? Because as they famously said, like, and if you ask somebody, Ford had this question of, if they asked the customers what they want, they would have said faster horse. Like, how do you differentiate between building a faster horse versus actually solving that problem?
Yeah, in a way, that's true. Like if you go to a customer, they will say that they want a faster horse because they are coming from the example of they were using a horse before. But you are actually getting that answer from them. Like you're not, when you talk to a customer, you're not actually going there. A customer is not going to give like a correct solution to you. They're going to give you a direction that when a customer said that they want a faster horse, it actually means that they want to reach to that place faster. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go and build a faster horse. You can build a faster car, you can build something else. You don't necessarily need to build that horse only. So it's for us as a team to define that, okay, that's the problem that the customer is trying to say. We need to think about in terms of, again, that articulating the question that we need to identify the problem statement from the customer. We don't need the solution from the customer. Solution is something that we will work on and probably partner with the customer to see that if that's where the solution lies. Yeah, in a way, again, you have to think about the problem statement and identify where that problem lies in the whole flow.
Yeah, that's great. So in that whole horse story, the problem they had was actually getting to the destination and the speed at what they wanted to get the destination, and maybe even the comfort of destination. Like, we both know we have worked with customers who has told us what solution they need, which means that they told us that they need a horse. In the beginning, starting to build a company, we've actually built the horses. And there has been lesson learned on differentiating when are we going down the path of actually really building the solution because somebody's enamored with some kind of a product, or it has an internal decision about what will make that company look better in terms of using certain kind of product versus trying to solve that real problem, right? So as a product person, I think it's a day-to-day decisions making that we need to do to differentiate these requests and feature requests that we get, almost like it's a natural thing that people ask us for things. When do we kind of draw the line and understand that, right? So do you have a process and how do you do that?
Yeah, like you mentioned that we have built horses and that sort of act as a if we look back at that making that horses part is actually the technical debt we carry around with us. So that's the horse which is holding us back sometimes. And like in terms of process, yeah, in the initial stages of the company when we were actually increasing the adoption, and so we had to cater to the customer demands. And sometimes, like in the rush of delivery or finding the minimum viable product, we all sometimes do deliver, and still sometimes we have to deliver that horse part first to come to them, like to define the initial MVP. So I think in a startup, for main thing for us always has been build fast, fail fast. I know it's better to think about what you want to build and all those things, but it's sometimes better to build up a prototype, test it out, fail, revamp the prototype, build it and test it out and fail, so that you always have that option to revisit that cycle and incorporate the customer feedback and then re-release a product. Like even with the AI strategy, that's what we are trying to follow, that we release a small MVP where what we can do, get the initial feedback, how the users are reacting, release it to a few number of users who are patient enough to work with us on this, understand that it's a beta thing, it might not work, there might be hallucinations with any AI model as it is. So I think, yeah, it's sort of an iterative process. It's not like something that you can keep on researching, and you will just release it one day and you will see a very wide adoption. It might happen, but I think majority of the cases it's always that it's better to iterate, release a minimum product, and iterate and keep on improving the product.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think there's another story that I just remembered, human AI pin. I think they took 6 years and $250 million to get to the point, and then they failed. And there was a whole story of, like, there was a lot of comments about, like, why couldn't they have released this earlier and let the people test it out versus getting to a point where it was released in the market but still it wasn't fully done. I think that with the hardware it's a little bit different, but the lesson to just get it out in the market is important. This is where the product managers and the team actually has to bring their own understanding and the belief in the market, because as Reid Hoffman used to say, like if the product's too perfect, it might already be too late to release actually, but like you said, fail fast is the part of that, but you also have a lot of these other parts where you get only one chance to release to the market, and you need to have had a certain level of MVP in the market, right? So it's a very important piece. Our first part of our product, which is Ask Bob, was out like several months ago. We've seen like daily active users from all of our customers using this, whoever has access to it. We didn't really teach them how to use it. It was such a natural thing that everybody started to understand it. So I've heard like people telling me, like, from our customers in the calls, is like, this is the easiest tool I've ever learned to use, right? Because they were using our tool to verify like wage and payroll compliance, and being able to do that and generate that report from Ask Bob was such an easy thing to do. It was like, just asking a question to your assistant, right? So that's really powerful actually. So, it's a very interesting path that the industries and all the companies that we're working with right now. And so where is the next in terms of like, are we seeing the solutions that are being built right now are more on the infrastructure layer, like, GPU layer, data center layer, or are we seeing more on the models that are being built, like OpenAI to Gemini to Claude, all these Llama, right? And then the application layer that we're building and all these customers are building right now. Do you think that where does the industry stand in terms of all these different layers? Where do you see this growth happening primarily?
I think the growth is driven in all three areas. It's not just like once we are seeing that one single vertical having a lot of growth or technological advancement. Like if you look at, let's say, the model level layer, what OpenAI, Llama, and other models are doing, it's also driven on the basis of the infrastructure improvements that NVIDIA has delivered in the last few years. So it's riding on the backbone of that. And even in terms of application layer, if you look at the application layer, like let's say companies like Perplexity, they're driven on the part of the model layer. So it's sort of like we are seeing all the three verticals sort of like having an increased amount of because of the advancement that's happening for us specifically, since we are focused on the application layer. I think we are seeing a very significant improvement. Like you can sort of like let's take an example of reporting, like you mentioned, that AI can help us now in generating those report, highlight like what we are working on could be that highlighting that discrepancies in your prevailing wage reports, or automating some of those reports as a single principle, as a general idea can help you understand that part. Like, so it's not like we are seeing any one single application, one single growth level. We are seeing all three verticals. For even for us at an infrastructure level, the improvements can go beyond like what we are working on right now. We work with the wearable technology also. So I think with the general improvement, we will see like how we can incorporate those improvements and help, let's say, better safety-based alerts. So sort of like how that infrastructure level improves, we can also keep on replicating in the application level improvements.
Yeah, it's an interesting phase because all of those three has been improving. It would have been really hard for somebody to go and buy this huge amount of GPU or or processing power in Amazon or in Microsoft, or labeling data in these servers. But now having these distributed servers that are being utilized by multiple companies has enabled companies to now scale faster, right? And on the other hand, there are models that are good at something, and some of the models could be good at do text recognition. Some models could be good at image recognition. Some models could be good at translation and voice, right? So there are different kinds of models that are better and they have their own strength. So that actually even helps. On the other hand, like the application layer is like pretty big. Right? What about our platform in a way, just not to give it away too much, but we built our we'll build our AI model in a way that we can actually switch between different ones.
So I think with this advancement in at least the model layer and the infrastructure layer, it allows you to uh, let's say if, like not considering even us like as a general very small company that is trying to make big or a general startup, they have the option to pay via API cost. You don't need to host the entire model and pay continuously for every single second the model is hosted on your servers. You're just paying for the API cost. So you're paying on the basis of the usage that your customers are using that model for. So that has helped us in terms of like with limited resources, limited amount of money, you can do a lot more. So even for us right now, what we are exploring is how we can use multiple of those models. We don't want to get relied on one single model and have the option of switching between different models. What gives us the best output? What gives us the best performance? Like even with AWS, you have option to use AWS Textract to extract back text from images, PDFs, and all those things. And similarly on OpenAI, you have the very good models like GPT-4o, 4o Mini, and even the smaller models perform very well in helping some of those coding related tasks, what you're trying to do, understand users' queries, and so on. So I think what we are trying to as a company achieve right now is open the horizon, lay the base framework so that we can keep on experimenting and give the user the more option like co-pilots and agents, which can help them in the day-to-day workflow on the job sites.
Yeah, it's good to have that flexibility to do a users based model, but do you require the model to be hosted in your own server and have that whole flexibility if you were to then take it to the next level?
Like it depends what you are trying to achieve from that models. Like it's not necessarily that you need to host the model in the initial go. So you can always look at using the APIs that we are doing right now, but we also have the option of hosting the model. That's what something we are also experimenting. So depending upon the customizations that you're doing with the model, like fine tuning the models, and so like when you reach that stage that you have like hundreds of users using it daily, using it every minute, and it becomes part of your workflows that you need a co-pilot agent to go and do certain tasks in the workflow every second. So it might become more easier for us to host the model, customize it, fine tune it, have a layer of our own, let's say, small language model in principle. Like, let's say, if we have a layer of a SLM on top of that, which can guide that entire workflow, which is more. So, basically, the point of having your own model hosted on your own server allows you to have a domain specific knowledge on that model. But again, like even for fine tuning, like OpenAI allows you to do fine tune models without hosting those models yourself.
Yeah. Let's talk about now. We can talk about more of the construction specific things. So, Jay, what about like all these open AI, Anthropic, all these models, they do not have a construction specific domain expertise, right? Because we've done this before with uploading our data sets and being able to extract some information. It wasn't very accurate, right? How do you get to that domain expertise? Because ultimately, accuracy is important. And how do companies build that domain expertise in any field?
I think that's where again, that fine tuning of the models comes into play, where basically, let's say, like an example that I heard was consider as a large language model as a human with the human level intelligence. Like, it's not there right now, but for an example's sake, let's consider that. And when you or me or anyone in the industry, anyone as a general is going for their master's, for their PhD, or doing something in that field, it's basically fine tuning them to that constructions or that domain specific knowledge now. It's basically using prompt as an example, like prompt engineering has been there. So using prompt as an example is there to train your models to be more domain specific. How accurate your prompts are, how well defined your prompts are can help the models be more domain specific. Like let's say even in OpenAI, you can define a role and say that I want you to act as a project manager for or a data analyst for this company who is trying to achieve this task. It gives you certain level of sort of like an well-defined role for that bot to answer your questions. But um, I think it goes beyond that when you fine-tune the model with your own data sets, what your data sets are doing, or what your data sets are trying to achieve, or what your data sets are recording. That's what we are doing right now. So I think that fine tuning of the models plays very big into that role of providing that domain specific knowledge. Again, like um, the whole point of having a small language model on top, which is your construction domain, or not even construction domain, your domain specific model can help achieve some of those tasks. Like let's say if you're working with a bank and a bank is using an OpenAI model or something, they will have their own financial data sets which can help you answer some of those questions. So they will train on the basis of those financial data sets and literature that they have collected over the past 50 years, 20 years, 30 years to answer those investment related questions or answer banking related questions. So similarly for us, we are using construction domain specific data sets that we have acquired using our wearable tech on the job sites to answer some of those questions.
Yeah. And are there different kinds of models? Like, you mentioned fine tuning, um, you know, and SLM, right? So you mentioned multiple things, but I think you can also use different hybrid methods to do this, right? And you can combine different ways to get to that point where you're applying different models to make the data more accurate.
Yeah, that's true. Like one of the good framework is retrieval augmented generation. It's basically an information retrieval system. Before it runs through the large language model, you use RAG-based system to get the exact kind of information, like to basically extract the relevant information before passing it to the large language model to process the data. So those are some of the methods that are there in terms of models. Like there are different models. I think like every company is experimenting with every major tech companies are experimenting with Google having the Gemini, OpenAI, GPT. I think it's right now O3, O1, Anthropic, Meta release Llama 3.2. So there are different models that you can play around with. It depends upon what you're trying to achieve. Like you necessarily don't need a 70 billion parameters model for answering very simple questions. So that's what some of the approach that we are trying to take is like we can switch dynamically between 4O Mini, 4O, or a Mistral to a Llama 7. A 3.2 based on how the model is performing.
That's really cool. We've seen the this whole demand for using AI to do production tracking, using AI to do schedule analytics, safety. There's a whole different varieties of applications that are in demand or that we've seen getting built, and we are also working on a few right now. We've released a few in the market right now, just to get some initial adoption or initial validation of what we're doing, right? Which roles do you think are getting more affected by this AI and evolution of AI? Is it going to be the supers? Is it going to be the project managers? Is it going to be laborers on a job site? Or is it going to be like what different roles like estimators and schedulers? Like where do you see this getting affected more? And are they actually getting displaced, or are they just basically how do they actually adapt to the new world of AI driven construction management?
I think it's AI can transform construction. I don't think it's going to replace the roles. The idea is that it's going to augment the roles. It's going to provide them, help you reduce inefficiency, sort of like improve safety, productivity, not really going to eliminate jobs. Like even if we take all the three examples that you have cited, like let's say labor, if we take painters as an example, painters rely on a lot of manual skills, sort of like the artistic precision and so on. We are not seeing AI going to, and even robotics going to fully replicate what they're doing right now, but it can help. Like, let's say, image recognition models can help you understand which paint the architect is prescribing to the Pantone colors and so on, so that you can go and specifically match the colors. So it can help you with those things with the renders and achieving those render level quality in paints in real life. When I was in CMUV, there was a lot of experimentation going on with robotics and painting, but it wasn't trying to replicate what a traditional painter is doing. It was trying to create 3D patterns and those things which are difficult to do with a human skill. So it's basically trying to augment them. It can providing them with a platform there where they can be more creative and more artistic. And sort of like what we do, like with our wearable tech, it can help you see if the painter is working on a height, they are on a safer height, they have the correct certification documents to work at that height and so on. And AI can help you analyze that. Like let's say if a painter is working on more than 8 feet of height, and it can alert you, like a co-pilot can alert you that this painter is working on an 8 feet height and he hasn't taken the training to work on higher heights. So that's one of the thing. I think now if you look at a layer above the superintendents, sort of AI can act as a sort of like a decision support system where it can help you manage your day-to-day operations, like see what, like provide you with real-time alerts. Can be you can set alerts that if, let's say, my plumbing contractor doesn't show up on zone A by 8 a.m., send me an alert. So sort of like so scheduling those automated alerts. So like an agent working for you that can help you efficiently do your tasks rather than you going and finding out to zone A he didn't show up today. So like that AI can help you with our technology and our variables, and so it sort of suits well with what we are doing and helping AI enforce into that. Sort of helps supers in the day-to-day execution. Reporting is also there. It can help you analyze which scheduled tasks are happening, and you can then allocate resources on the basis of that. And I think the highest level layer, if we see on a job site, the project managers, I think that's where we can see a lot of impact happening because a lot of project managers are responsible to make progress reports, compliance documents, summaries, and so on, understand cost overrun, any risk that's happening. That's where the agents and those tools help to avoid them to doing those manual works. They always have to oversee what the AI is doing. It's not necessarily that if a project manager comes and says that make me a project control report, you're not going to forward that report out simply because AI created that. But the idea is that the 2 hours of work can now be cut down to 20 minutes. He has to just read the document, correct the things that he doesn't like, or he has to change according to that. And he has a very well drafted document in hand to share with the team so that he can focus on the more important tasks. So I
Yeah.
think the impact will go on through all the layers, just that we have to like which layer gets adapted first would be the thing to see.
Yeah, and we've seen in all verticals, like all roles that we've seen this. Like I've seen painting robots, like Canvas is doing that, and then there is all the supers are able to now use Kwant to do automated headcount, or they can use companies like Open Spaces to do job site walkthrough, or they can use Drone Deploy to do the site capture, right? So there is that also is happening. And on the other hand, right now PMs are already using Procore or Autodesk Construction Cloud to track what's going on, and so there is a lot of that already happening. And when you look at these different verticals right now, or different roles that are getting impacted by AI, we've also seen the who said this. I think Sam said that, or somebody said that, like where it's not the AI is going to take your job. It's somebody who knows how to use AI is probably going to take your job because it's going to be more faster, more articulated, more analytical, and so right. And I think that it's such a simple thing to learn because anybody can technically go to any of these open source platforms, or and can go to one of these websites and can start playing around with these different tools and start learning about how to make their life easier, actually, right? I think this is happening all across the industry, and it's really interesting times we're in. So historically we've seen many companies try to build their own models, like or not just build their own model, but build the entire infrastructure from labeling to predicting to just even like entirety of the process. There was people who were investing millions and millions of dollars, and we've seen companies fail there because it just takes so much time to get to the point, because it's a very extensive work, right? So there's been a lot of attempts at that. And I actually I met one of the founders of a company called Site, who was merged with Drone Deploy, and we were talking about, like how if today today's model was available, or today's AI, all these AI facilities were available like about several years ago, it would have been a different ballgame because they would have been able to reach their destination much faster, actually. And so there was other examples as well where people have gone from building everything by themselves, and because they had to, because it was a domain specific you know thing that they were trying to do. That doesn't Today we can actually do that much faster. Simple example, right? Like you can upload an image on one of these platforms and tag how many doors are there, how many windows are there. It might not be 100% accurate, but you're able to just immediately do like count the number of doors, count the number of of tiles. Like you can easily do that, right? I think that has opened up such huge amount of market opportunities, but there are still hallucinations there, right? So how do you bridge the gap between, okay, finally we got up to here, perhaps 10x faster from 6 years ago what people could have built, but how do we fix the hallucination problem?
I think that hallucination problem again it's very difficult right now, even with the different models available that are answering that hallucination problem. You can reduce it, like we were talking in the morning with our team, that we have seen results where basically we are able to reduce the hallucinations even to 95 to 98% level. But there is still an example, 1 to 2% of hallucination that still remain. But I think like if you compare it to the point when instruction site and other companies were trying to make their own models or trying to do it from the scratch, it has become much more easier. There is a less amount of infrastructure cost requirement. I think with this advancement, we can see a lot more adoption of AI in construction. Again, that it's also about like a lot of people do consider this as will it like taking to the previous example that we were talking about, that will it start killing up the jobs, start taking people's job, or like even those things, like even with the product part, people think that why do I need this product when OpenAI can do this, or something other, some other example. So it's not necessarily true. Like I remember like when I think it was GPT-4 or 4.0 was released. Yeah, GPT-4 was released. People were considering that this would be the end of Duolingo. It was seen as a huge disruption for Duolingo, like for those traditional app-based learning environments, because Duolingo has been doing pretty well. But it actually didn't. The team was sort of like strategic enough to understand what these AI models can provide them. Uh, they were not like stuck on the part that okay, wow, what will we do now? They were actually able to use those large language models into the product to enhance the engagement, to personalize the more product more. Like I think one of the most interesting features was basically role play. Now, when you're learning Spanish or any other language for that matter, you can you have that Duolingo Max subscription, which they created, like which is now their AI-based subscription, and you can do a role play with someone because that's the best way you can learn a language, like with communicating with someone in the same language. So I think it's being more agile, being more iterative, and adoption of those technologies enhances your product offering also, and it enhances, like you mentioned, that like your job is not going to be get killed. It's going to be replaced by someone who is more adaptive in these technologies.
Yeah. Um, when you think about the different applications that were already existing before these the new large language model came in the picture, so Duolingo actually became better. And when you compare Duolingo with other LLMs right now, do you still see that Duolingo is actually much better than the LLMs because Duolingo has more data, they have more domain expertise? Do you see there is a that do you still see that they're more powerful than the other language models because of their domain expertise?
Yeah, definitely. Duolingo has been the industry leading example of how app-based language learning is done. And their model, like their interface. So it's not always about the AI part of things. So they had the expertise, they had the domain knowledge of how language learning works, and they have worked with multiple tutors, and their language programs are actually designed on replicating how you actually taught languages in the terms of stand following those industry standards. So they were able to use their domain expertise to enhance those models and use it for their own advantage, rather than seeing that okay, now there isn't, like, let's say a chatbot who is going to work as an AI tutor. No, that wasn't what they were even planning to target, and it didn't impact their business at all. Actually, it went on, like, I think they're doing much better right now than what they were doing when GPT-4 was released.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
Yeah.
think your product still needs to be strong. It's not going to be replaced by AI if your product offering is strong enough and you are agile enough to adopt it into your product.
Yeah, I still see, I've seen a lot of products that existed before these models came in, and you can see like maybe Google released that product, or there was already another like big company release a product. You can still see that the companies who started before then had that domain expertise still has the strongest product because of their focus in that market, or the how they've trained the model to become more useful to the customer. There is still that value that is really really important for the applications that people are building to be used. Actually, I don't think that none of these big large language models are going to have that much disruption. I'm sure some of those companies will have an impact, but not all of them, because the domain expertise is still one of the most important thing that these large language models do not have actually right now, right? And so they call this large language models, but they talk to me about how it's not just about language. There are also things on the side of image recognition or analytics, or you could talk about machine learning, right? There are still things like that that still continue to be part of those models. And where are the strength there? Is it just to give you a language based answers, or have they gone beyond language based answer to give you more image or machine learning or any predictive analytics? Has there any attempts been made, or are they just actually not that good at these other things?
No, I think like the development is not just restricted to providing you natural language-based answers. It's much more beyond that. Uh, like we are seeing some multimodal models which are basically can answer you. They can read your text and generate an image. That's one of the examples. Like so, it's not just restricted to even the image-based models are not just restricted to providing you matching images like how you used to do in Google image search or something like that. It's even Google image search used to work. It works phenomenally well when you actually search for an image and it can provide you the search results on the basis of that image. So we are seeing much better advancement even in those cases, like facial recognition patterns will improve. And it's not like I think it's most about combining the text vision and like for us the sensor based data, which can help analyze some of those questions. And so like language models are there to help you. Like they can basically help you um, sort of like let's say answer the questions well. They're not just a language tool that okay write me an email. It goes beyond that it can help you answer this like even as a coding related question or understanding some of the data patterns. It can help you with that too. Like because they are not just teaching it on the basis of like whatever the text-based materials available. These models are well trained in doing basic mathematical tasks. So like let's say if a user asks, can I compare my workforce with yesterday and how it looks like? So it can provide you a detailed answer in terms of how the comparison between those two things looks like. The development goes beyond the language term of the things. So consider the language as being mathematics is also a language.
Yeah, mathematics, man. That's the core of all of these calculations that are we're doing, right? So I know that that's that basically what is moving the needle right now, from becoming just okay, how many workers are there, to now okay, do I have enough workers? How many workers I need to bring tomorrow? How many workers I need to bring for next 1 month? What is the curve that is a standard curve for this particular kind of resource? Is it drop 15% week over week after a certain period of time? And I think that there's a lot of these things that are are really going to be powerful to the companies that basically rely upon just guesstimates, right? Our industry is very famous for using historical data to make bidding for the next project. How is the project bid, right? A project is bid using past estimates. Its project is bid using the schedule is started using a past schedule of durations. Even hiring is based upon that. Today, we need to hire based upon okay, this person has worked on an airport project before. Let's bring an airport expert because he's worked on 5 airports. Because airports has its own world of terminologies and airside, landside, and what kind of compliance is required. And then so there is a lot of this domain expertise that construction relies upon. And with the aging workforce and just the whole labor shortage right now, the requirement to have AI based knowledge storage, and where everything is stored and all this information is then categorized and labeled either manually, and now a good thing is that now been categorized automatically, can then be used to give insights to people when they need it. I mean, that's going to be a pretty big deal. So is this a big opportunity, and where are the challenges of this? Like, are the data even clean? Are the data structured? And what are the challenges from going from the step one to now becoming a automated world of construction?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is that when we talk about the domain expertise, we need to realize that AI is not like how Jensen mentioned that AI is not universalist. So you still, I think one of the core leading fields should be having a domain level expertise so that you can work with AI. And the data cleaning part is always there that I think your data still needs to be clean, your data still needs to be processed before even parsing on to these things. You are basically like the better the data, the better the answers. Like even for like let's say language models or something, when I'm parsing a PDF, if I parse a PDF with wrong information, it's gonna give me wrong answers. So that part still remains important that how much cleaner your data is, better your answers are. It doesn't need to be 100% clean that you're spending your time and resources on just providing that perfect pitch amount of data, but it still needs to be clean enough for the like avoid that hallucination part of the things.
Yeah,
So I think yeah, we will see a lot of I think we will see a lot of improvement on the data engineering side as well with this advancement, and I think data acquisition still remains a critical piece because how you're acquiring the data and what are the sources of that data acquisition.
yeah,
And so that data pipeline is very important in any AI use case.
yeah. The data pipeline is very important, and also the way that I see it is the data pipeline. What is the data we have proprietary? Like, we have data about, not disclosing too much, but we have a large amount of data proprietary that we've collected over several years related to safety, productivity, and compliance, right? And I think there's a whole world of application layers that empowers these painters or project managers or superintendent to then be able to illustrate, like, present their findings, present their analytics in a very powerful way that was not possible before. Either because they were so busy managing the field that they really didn't have time to go into the depth of like analytics, or they had no comparison or benchmarks with how last week was happening or how the similar airport was built last time, and being able to understand, like, is my project going in the right direction or wrong. So didn't have the benchmark to do that, or they were uh, they were so focused on reporting of standard reports that they didn't really think about going beyond just oh, I'm going to make a daily report and that's it, right? Because daily report is something that is so powerful that it's going to use for compliance, payroll, audits, right? And how do we actually use that data right now just to get promoted, like, and get to look good in front of customers, clients, win more jobs, right? And showcase the best version of like everybody's role. I think that that's going to be a pretty big impact that these roles are going to have. We're excited that Kwant is actually going to be part of that journey for many of these customers, because it makes them look um, way more powerful. It gives them the ability to make better decisions on safety that can save lives, or in compliance, like managing payroll or certification, or productivity, where like we're able to do more with less amount of workers. All of these things are right now kind of in motion at Kwant, and without disclosing too much, we're super excited about sharing in one-on-one with whoever wants to come and talk to us. And you know so Jay, thank you for that. What are your last thoughts on, like, what should the industry watch out for in next 6 months? Where do you see from now to next 6 months, like, what change is going to happen in the construction industry?
I think in the next 6 months, we're not going to see like any huge drastic change, but we are definitely going to see some industry being more open to adoption of these AI-based technologies. A lot of construction general contractors are making their teams, they're hiring tech teams to understand how they can use AI tools in their day-to-day workflow. So we are going to see a lot more like open-minded conversations with those customers rather than what we sometimes see, more of a direct, hey, are you using AI? No, we don't want to use it. So I think there's going to be a much more open-minded conversation with them. We are definitely going to see a lot of development on the ethical side of things, that how are you protecting our data, how are you not sharing our data with third-party sub-processors and those things. So I think as the technology evolves and we see more adoption, we will definitely go through that route also, that how are we protecting the data. So sort of like an ethical AI development.
Got it. So your opinion is that in next 6 months, the industry is not going to see a lot of changes on how we do business, but there's going to be a lot of more interest there, actually, right? Yeah. Yeah, I think, there will be changes in some places, I think, because we know of both the two big giants in our industry has been working on AI for several years, and they really haven't had a massive impact in their product, or just even like an impact in the industry by having that much of the powerful position, actually. Yeah, so that's a hard thing to do. But you can see that impact happening on smaller companies making an impact, where they're able to read the legal documents faster and provide risk metrics on, like, where the risks are in the documents, like, that's legal tech. Or I heard that there's a difference between legal tech and law tech. So I don't know where that falls under. We've also seen a lot of, there's a lot of computer vision based technologies, like from drones to cameras to robotic layouts. We know several companies that our friends are building right now. So I think those are just going to keep getting more powerful. Hopefully, the cost goes down of building even these hardwares. And I think that we are going to see a lot of these new companies that are entering the market right now with some specific solutions that are AI powered. And it's exciting phase. We've been doing Kwant and building the Kwant data structure for several years now, and I think that we're going to be leading some of these developments in specifically our part of the market. So we're excited to keep everybody updated. So thank you, everybody who joined. I am going to say goodbye, and hopefully, if you have any questions, you can reach out to us. I'll leave the email below. So keep building cool stuff. Thank you, everybody. Bye.